Can I stop a foreclosure during probate? Hey guys, it's Brad from probateresource.com. Thanks for checking out this video. So at Probate Resource, we're a real estate solutions company specializing in the world of probate inheritance properties. We're based out of Metro Atlanta. We buy houses all over the state of Georgia. We even buy houses in other states as well. And hopefully I can help you a little bit here. So today's question is, can I stop a foreclosure during probate? And the answer is maybe. Ultimately, it's going to come down to the lender whether or not they allow it. We've had some lenders reject it and some lenders allow it. And I want you to stop and put yourself in the bank's shoes for a minute. You're like, screw the bank. I don't want to put myself in the bank's shoes. No, just stop. Hear me out here. Put yourself in the bank's shoes. Okay, if you're a bank and obviously the loan's in default, you haven't been paid for a long time, and you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And what do I mean by that? Well, you look at the information and you realize that, you might be getting paid off here in a month. Maybe you do the foreclosure, it takes 3 weeks or whatever, right? Maybe you might be more inclined to say, yeah, we'll go ahead and stop the auction. I'm gonna give you a real life example here. So we are doing a probate deal right now, been going on for over a year now. And the reason it's been going on over years because originally this gentleman, he passed away. He owned a personal residence and he owned a rental property. And he had a will and his wife was named executor in his will. And he passed away and his wife wanted to sell both properties. So we said, okay, sure, no problem. But hey, in order to sell the rental property, because it was only in his name, we're gonna have to probate his estate in order to sell the rental property, and you'll be the executor of his estate because you're named in the will as the executor. She said, okay, sure, no problem. But their personal residence, they fortunately owned it as joint tenants with survivorship. So she was actually once he passed away, she was 100% owner of the property. Sadly, the day before we were going to close and sell their personal residence to us, and we had just started the probate process, she passed away tragically. She had an aneurysm and passed away. And now we were back to the drawing board and we said, okay, crap, what do we do here? So what we did is we reached out to his son or her stepson, and he agreed to be the administrator of the gentleman's estate. And then we got the sister-in-law, so the lady who passed away, her brother's wife, agreed to be the administrator of her estate. Mind you, none of these people live in Georgia. So they all live in completely different states. One lives in like Washington State, one lives in Washington, D.C. Ironically, they both live in Washington. And they agreed to probate this, and we got one of our probate attorney firms that we work with to help probate this, and we actually had to do 2 different probates now instead of just 1. So we did all this, it took forever to get documents, courts took forever, miscommunications, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, finally, we see the light at the end of the tunnel. We are like 1 week away from him having his probate letters. Unfortunately, the house, the personal residence, was actually lost to foreclosure. We weren't able to save that one. It went to a foreclosure auction it was in August over the summer. Mind you, we started this whole thing in like March or April of last year. So anyways, the house was lost in a foreclosure auction. There were excess funds sitting there, which if you don't know what that means, so here in the state of Georgia, this doesn't apply in every state, but if there's a foreclosure auction and let's say you owe the bank $150,000 and the house sells at auction for $200,000, well, the bank is only entitled to get $150,000. All they're entitled to is what they're owed. So then there are excess funds over and above what the house sold for at auction, because remember, it's an auction and people bid and say, hey, I'll pay 200, I'll pay 210, right? So anyways, if it sells over and above that, there are excess funds sitting there, and those excess funds can be claimed by the owner of the property, which in this case is an estate. So we still had to go through probate. We still had to probate the wife's estate so that the estate can go back and claim those excess funds and use those funds to pay off the debts of the estate. In this case, there were some IRS liens and da-da-da. We still had to do that probate. We still also had to do the other probate because in order to sell the rental property, we need someone in charge of the estate. So between the client taking time, the probate attorney taking time, the courts taking their sweet time, because this was in DeKalb County, which DeKalb takes forever and a day here in Georgia to do probates, we're finally a week away from getting his letters of administration and being able to finally close this deal. But the crazy part is that a few weeks ago, we got notice that the house was actually going to be auctioned off the 6th of June, which is the first Tuesday in June. So the house is going up for auction. We're like, oh crap, are we gonna be able to get this thing closed in time? If everything goes right, we will. We should have probate letters like next week and we can close like immediately after that. But if we don't get the letters, if he doesn't get the letters in time, we're not gonna be able to close. So what we're actually doing, we've already reached out to the lender. I had my real estate attorney who's handling the closing reach out to the lender. They finally got us a payoff. That was a battle in and of itself, trying to get payoff authorizations and all this stuff. They finally agreed to provide a payoff, and they said, okay, we'll stop the auction too if you can just send us basically a closing statement. Basically, in essence, at the end of the day, the bank is getting paid off here as soon as we get our probate letters, which might happen before the auction, or it might happen like a week after the auction or the week of the auction. We don't really know yet. It's sort of up in the air. From the bank's perspective, they're gonna get paid off here in the next few weeks. So to them, they don't really care, right? So they're willing to stop this auction because they know they're gonna get paid off here in the next few weeks. Versus maybe a scenario, we had an instance, a gentleman reached out to us a couple months ago, and his house was going to foreclosure. He inherited this house from his dad. He was living there, and he just filed for probate like 2 days before he called us. And he called us like less than a week before the auction. We're like, yeah, man, we can try. We reached out to the lender. We tried our best, but they didn't want to stop the auction. So the house actually ultimately went to the auction. Now, if you're in this situation and you are facing foreclosure and you're living in this house you've inherited and it's getting foreclosed on, and let's say you're the tenant, right? You're the person living in the house, they can't kick you out right away. So don't feel like you're gonna get kicked out right away. So also, if the house sells at auction and that evening or the next day, someone knocks on the door and says, hey, I'm the investor who bought this house, you need to get out, don't let them do that. You have rights. There are federal laws and state laws that protect you that do not allow them to immediately evict you. They have to give you proper written notice and they have to give you proper timeline to get out of the house. So depending on which state you're in, make sure you research that and it will tell you if the house is being foreclosed on, how long till they can evict you out of the property. So again, that's different from state to state, but there's also federal guidelines that dictate that as well. So I hope this video helped you out a little bit. Probate can take forever, and then throw in a foreclosure in the mix, and that's even more complicated, but you don't have to fret. Sometimes the auction can be stopped. Now, that doesn't mean that it's gonna be stopped forever. That just means it can be postponed, right? The bank still wants to get paid off. So you're still gonna have to sell the house, but you may not have to sell it like right now. You might be able to get a few more weeks or whatever if you need to finish the probate. But again, it's entirely up to the lender. So thanks again for checking out this video. I'm Brad from probateresource.com. Again, we're a real estate solutions company. So if you have a house that you've inherited and you want to sell this house, you want a quick, easy, fast cash offer, maybe the probate world is just mind-boggling to you and you can't figure it out. That's what we do. We're experienced in this game. We've been doing probate and inheritance deals for a long time, and we're happy to help you out with that. So also, if you're in the state of Georgia and you want to maybe try your luck on listing the property out on the MLS, try to get top dollar for it, I'd be happy to list the property for you. I'm actually a licensed agent here in Georgia with One Source in Woodstock. Be happy to discuss the options with you, whether, maybe a cash offer is best for you or if you want to list the property. So thanks again for checking out this video. I'm Brad with probateresource.com. Have a great day. Bye-bye.